Leaders around the world have created a climate emergency, and by doing this, they've declared climate emergencies. This is going to have real harm on real people, and it's going to have real harm on a lot of people. Right now, the gas prices are going up, and our government has designs to switch over to a more electric vehicle type society. And what they have not taken into account is the fact that we don't have the capacity right now to handle electric vehicles. In fact, in California, they don't have the capacity to handle whatever they've got. And Pete Buttigieg learned the other day that refrigerators use a lot less electricity than the electric vehicles that are going to have to charge at the homes. So let's take a look at that. And then I want to talk about how our corporations here in America are responding.
Secretary Buttigieg, I've been driving an electric car for 10 years, and I've had solar panels for 15 years, and I'm really bullish on technology and the way it could help make our country energy independent or more energy independent. But I'm really alarmed at sort of the naivete of those who are promoting rapid adoption of these technologies with our existing infrastructure. President Biden signed a non-binding executive order stating that 50% of vehicles sold in the United States should be electric by 2030. Do you support that?
Yes.
And he also said that by 2035, that 100% of the federal government fleet should be electric. Do you support that?
Yes.
So, which uses more electricity? We're talking about residential electricity here. A refrigerator when it's running, or an electric car when it's charging in your garage?
I would expect a car.
Would you say it uses twice as much or 25 times as much?
I would think closer to 25 times as much. Yeah.
It's actually 50 at the instantaneous moment, but over the course of a year, if I take the numbers from the U.S. Department of Energy about the average household, how many vehicles they own and how far they drive, over the course of a year, an American household would use 25 times as much electricity for their electric car as they would for their refrigerator if they had 100% adoption. And the average family has 2 vehicles, and this would be if the average family had 2 electric vehicles. Do you think it would strain the grid if everybody plugged in 25 refrigerators in every household?
Well, if we didn't make any upgrades to the grid, sure. I mean, if we had yesterday's grid with tomorrow's cars, it's not going to work. It's one of the reasons why we believe that infrastructure includes electrical infrastructure, and argued for that to be included, as it thankfully was in the bipartisan law.
Do you think by 2030, which is when Biden says 50% of cars sold should be electric, do you think the grid will be capable of handling electric cars?
It's going to need to be, and we're working with the Department of Energy every day. We've established a joint office of energy and transportation to map out some of the needs. Obviously, some of this gets outside of my lane, and we've been discussing with, for example, the truck stops that are looking at what their power needs would need to be at an interchange.
So in other words, that's somebody else's job. They're going to take care of it. Don't worry. We know. It's going to get taken care of. Trust me. We don't know how yet, but we're going to figure that out.
Pointing out that while a typical driver who adopts electric is using more electricity, at the end of the day, they're using less energy because of the efficiency benefits.
He literally just made that up.
Of getting that energy produced at utility.
The problem is
we
don't have the capacity to produce that energy. You aptly use the word need. You could say want as well. There's needs and wants to make this fantasy work by 2030, but the reality is the capability is not going to be there. The average household uses 17% of their electricity for air conditioning. And that would mean the average household uses 1,870 kilowatt hours per year for air conditioning. If that average household plugged in electric cars, do you know how much more electricity they would use in comparison to the air conditioning that air conditions their whole house?
No, but again, I would emphasize it will be less.
Let me help you with
overall.
that first before we go on, because the numbers are important. It would take 4 times as much electricity to charge the average household's cars as the average household uses on air conditioning. Do you think that could be? So if we reach the goal by 2030 that Biden has of of 50% adoption instead of 100% adoption, that means the average household would use twice as much electricity charging one of their cars as they would use for all of the air conditioning that they use for the entire year. Do you think this could contribute to rolling blackouts and brownouts in areas of the country where air conditioning is basically considered essential?
Not if we prepare. Look, the fact that people who have electric vehicles are going to use more electricity can't be a reason to give up.
Well, if it's going to crash our economy and cause food shortages worldwide, then yeah, maybe it's a good reason to give up.
In the time that I have left, let me say, I'm not saying we shouldn't prepare. I told you at the beginning of this, I'm bullish on this technology, but the numbers and the rate of adoption has been developed using political science, not engineering. They're impractical. And if we blindly follow these goals that Biden has set out, it will cause pain and suffering for the middle class. And I yield back.
And it gets even worse. Ford is reportedly planning to cut 8,000 jobs to fund its EV plans. The reductions would come from its Ford Blue unit producing ICE vehicles, which is internal combustion engine vehicles. So it's trying to slim down 8,000 jobs over the coming weeks in an effort to fund its plans to build EVs. Now, look at this. Ford currently employs around 31,000 salaried U.S. workers, which means if they cut 8,000 salaried workers, that's about 25% of that's a quarter of their workforce that they're cutting out. And they're cutting them out for EVs, electric vehicles. And there's no demand for electric vehicles. If there was demand for a product, you would be hiring more people in order to make more of that product. But there's no demand for this product. This product is going to be forced upon us because it's going to be the only, even though it's unaffordable, it will be even more affordable than the gas vehicles and trying to pay for gas if they go through with this crazy, crazy tyranny. We don't truly live in a capitalist society anymore, with the World Economic Forum being in such control of all of these countries and the corporations. We've lost all sovereign control of the factories in our nation, of the biggest corporations that help employ the people of our nation. So I really hope you've gotten something out of this, and I would appreciate it if you shared it, because I'd like to just really get the truth out to as many people as possible and try to wake people up to what's going on around them. And just please hit the like button too as well, because that helps get this out. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And I really do want to know what you think. So please comment down below and come back later on, because I'll be doing more of this. Until next time, peace be with you.